And welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast. And today we are going to be reviewing Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And as always, thank you so much for watching the episode. And remember to like, comment, subscribe. Just give us a little love. We are hoping to get to 50 subscribers whenever. So the more people we can get watching these videos, the sooner we can get the word out, build an audience, build a following, and hopefully you'll get to meet us in real life at some point. But before we get started, Lee, the movie Pope, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Glad to see. Actually, can report we've seen some good movies recently, which has I think been a little bit of a roller coaster. So I'm glad that I guess some spoilers with that. Good to be able to talk about some strong movies that we've seen recently.
Yeah, and seriously, if you haven't seen Mission Impossible by now, then at this point you're SOL because we are going to drop a lot of spoilers. So the last movie that we did see was, what was it, Fallout? I know that was the one with Henry Cavill and his infamous mustache, and then
Yes.
there was a bit of a hiatus. Now, what's funny was that we saw that movie on a Sunday, and not just any Sunday, but on a Sunday night. Which is a little bit off for the both of us because we normally like to see our movies on Saturday afternoons, but it didn't spoil our enjoyment of the movie. What your moviness? What did you think of the of part one of this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great entry. I would say Mission Impossible was it's been kind of an odd franchise, right? I really liked the first one. And, the second one, not so much. The third one was decent, but it feels like kind of in this kind of, I guess, this next trilogy almost of new ones that they've been having. They've been some really strong entries. And I think Dead Reckoning, it for being a two-parter, unfortunately, I thought was a really strong entry. I really enjoyed it. There was, maybe a sequence or two that I felt like maybe dragged on a little bit too long, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like to see, once again, kind of the Ethan Hunt and company being together, and kind of interesting to see how they've kind of brought in the character Grace, who's played by Hayley Atwell,
Mm-hmm.
who's being brought into this. So it should be. I'm excited for it. I thought great movie, great stunts, and I'm definitely looking forward to what they do with the second installment.
Now, just to dive in, I know with most Mission Impossible movies, and I guess with most spy movies in general, usually your villain is going to be this, either someone who used to work for the agencies but has been turned, or someone with a messianic vision that includes global genocide, or a maniac who thinks he knows everything and everyone else is just getting in his way. But what I thought was interesting was the fact that in this particular case, the villain was an AI, and the person, or I guess the avatar who's speaking for the entity, is Gabriel, who's a villain from Ethan's past. What did you think about them using an AI software as as the quote unquote main villain of the movie?
I'm not gonna lie, that's probably one aspect of it I didn't enjoy. I'm not a fan of the AI thing. It just feels like nowadays it's like kind of one of those things where we're always talking about AI, we're always seeing advancement in AI. I couldn't really get behind it just because it's AI. I think it was very smart of them to have, like you said, the character of Gabriel, who they brought in, who, obviously I believe we've never heard referenced or mentioned in any of the previous installments. So I think it was a good thing that they brought him in, because I think it offers like a human antagonist to go with kind of this idea of, you're having AI as the villain. But I would say if I'm nitpicking anything, that's one part of the movie I wasn't a huge fan of. I just feel like the AI just it's hard to grasp that as a villain. I like having a more tangible villain where it's like, okay, I know this Gabriel guy. I know he has a kind of a connection with Ethan. So I think that kind of helps give me a little bit more to go with it. But it's like when you kind of have this like nameless AI, it's kind of like, looking at something like with the Avengers, right? Age of Ultron. I think of Ultron, I think like, oh, it's just like an AI that, is like, all powerful and, has this idea or this warped worldview that they're going to bring in. And it's just, to me, not very interesting. Obviously he, has like a physical presence behind him, which is what you're really engaged with. But then, like, kind of the idea of the AI is always kind of in the background. And I feel the same way with this. Like, the AI, to me, is not a very interesting part of it. It's more of, like, kind of seeing it. And we kind of see it being a little bit too, I realize it's AI, but it's like, there's some times where just like, dang, like, it's almost like omnipotent, right? Like, I get that there's some of that, but I feel like we've also seen some of the AI be kind of, like, overused with even, the Fast and Furious, right, where they have the AI is the God's Eye or some shit like that in one of them, and I was just like, this is kind of a pretty lame thing. So I would say out of everything that they could have had, I think that would be one of my major qualms against this new installment was the fact that they're using AI as the villain.
I mean, it's got too much of a Skynet feel to it because this is something that doesn't have a physical body that's working through different avatars and is nigh omnipotent. What did you think about the fact that the AI was sort of quote unquote afraid of Ethan? Because I thought that was just a bit weird that that the software would be afraid of one man.
Yeah, I think that was maybe Tom Cruise's ego maybe getting a little bit too big, where it's just like, oh man, like, I'm this omnipotent AI, but this one guy, this is the guy that I have to watch out for. So
I mean,
I do think it was maybe a little bit too much of that.
Now, now in terms of other villains, I mean, obviously we've got Gabriel, and really the only other movie I can think of Gabriel was the first Mission Impossible, but he was kind of like in passing, and you remember those flashbacks where Gabriel kills that lady. I tried searching all the past Mission Impossible movies to see where that was from, but apparently that's just a scene that they shot just for Dead Reckoning. So I was kind of like, so what was the significance of that? Like, was she like someone like pretty special, like a partner or a girlfriend or what? That kind of got Ethan, on the train of wanting to smash Gabriel's head in. Now you did mention the AI villain is one of the many hangups to you not fully enjoying the movie. What were the other ones that you kind of thought, you kind of overreached yourself there, buddy?
So I think my only main other qualm was, I guess, kind of near the very end, right? So,
is it the train one or is it the face swap one?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where I kind of it started to feel a little bit of its length at that stage, right? I think it's 2 hours and 45 minutes, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's a decently long movie, right? And it's a two-parter. And up until that stage, I was fully engaged. I like a lot of the airport sequence. I thought was really interesting. I enjoyed that. I enjoy kind of the big standoff that they have when they bring back in Vanessa Kirby's character and everything like that.
And Elsa.
Elsa. Yep. So you have all that with Grace as well and Gabriel, just a big old standoff. And then by the time it gets to the train, it just felt like there was just one too many action sequences. I thought it was just kind of weird. I remember when we were talking about it kind of afterwards, like the fact that Hayley Atwell or Grace was dressing up as Vanessa Kirby and everything, and the eye colors were different, and that was driving me insane
You
the
were
whole
throwing
time.
a fit. You were throwing a fit next to me. I thought you were going to have a heart attack. But to your point, I mean, what's weird was that they do the face swap, right? So Grace goes into Vanessa Kirby's room for a few seconds, and then she emerges in a completely different outfit. Now, to your point, I would think it's pretty weird that the bodyguard who's known her for years and years wouldn't notice a change in eye color. But for me, I was and I was telling a friend of ours this. How could he have not noticed that her outfit changed completely? She went from dressing completely all white to a gray coat, well, basic gray everything. And I think I'm safe in saying that women are not that quick enough to change from one, outfit to another within a few seconds. You know, I think I'm safe in saying that. So any female viewers, don't give me shit for that. We know it's the truth. But but there are just some things about that don't make any sense, because it's like you would think that they would have everything planned down to a T, but it kind of felt like everybody was just like, going out, just operating on the fly, really. Yeah, I just thought it was so. I agree with you. I thought that part was really, really weird that nobody noticed or batted an eyelid over that.
Yeah, that was the part that I think got me the most. Absolutely, that was the part where I was just like, you know what? I don't know how comfortable I am with like no one bringing it up or mentioning it. I mean, I could understand for I could certainly fathom that maybe not everyone's going to pay attention to that, but it's like at some point something had to kind of click that it was like, hey, you know what? This is not it. So, I could understand that maybe Kittredge wouldn't recognize it, even though it sounds like, they'd seen each other at some stage early in their life, because he had mentioned like, oh, you've grown up a lot or whatever. So he kind of seemed to imply that, you've seen each other. So like, I could understand that for someone, haven't seen someone in a long time, you might not pick up on that. But like you said, like her bodyguard's right there. Everyone's staring at her right in the face. And it's just like, no, that someone's got to pick up on that. And yeah, that was the one thing I was kind of expecting that to play a role, like, like all of a sudden they like look at it, be like something's off, like, even like just something to call it out, like even if it's not a huge role. I felt like ignoring it was not the right choice, and I felt like that's unfortunately what they did through that kind of sequence.
Yeah, but to be fair, I guess it was just their way of kind of keeping the story moving along. They just didn't want to get bogged down in all those minor details, even if those details are pretty major, like say someone's eye color or outfit.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess the way I look at it is, if you're gonna go through the effort, like you're getting this mask, right? They're creating this mask. You're getting this like little voice thing put on, right? And I'm like, dang, like the easiest thing to me is contacts, and you don't have that. It just feels weird. And initially, what I was thinking was like maybe there'd be like a sequence where, like, kind of and I forget what was Vanessa Kirby, your character's name again. I'm sorry.
I've just been calling her Vanessa Kirby. I know she's the daughter of one of the of the lady from the original Mission Impossible.
Sure. Okay. Well, it's fine. We'll just call. I was expecting that. Excuse me, Grace and Vanessa Kirby's character would kind of like interact at some stage, and the
it's
only way
Alana.
we know it
It's
is
Alana,
because of the eye color. So I was like, okay, maybe that's what they're building up for. But then that literally never happened. So it feels like I said, it just feels odd that with all the focus they put on everything, that would be something that they don't ever address in any form, whether in passing or to have some sequence that would build up.
Oh, by the way, it's Alana. I just remembered that.
Alana, yes, thank you. Yes, Alana, yes.
So then let me ask you about Grace, because obviously she's being set up as the new female lead. What did you think of her character as a thief?
It was interesting to see her get brought in. It was. I mean, I guess I was fine with it, but it just feels weird because it's like you have Rebecca Ferguson's character, right, Elsa, that you already kind of have, right? That's kind of this, kind of like femme fatale character and everything. And it just felt odd that they brought in Hayley Atwell. I'm not sure why they felt the need to bring in Grace. I don't have any issue with their character or anything like that. I think she's acted very well in the movie, but it just felt odd. Like it just seemed kind of weird to have it happen. And obviously, as we go through it, there's kind of this battle between Gabriel and Elsa, and Gabriel ends up killing her, which I was definitely surprised about.
You were devastated, man. You were devastated.
I like Rebecca Ferguson, right? I like her as an actor. The whole character to me is not that I would say like there's not a whole lot of screen time dedicated, so I don't think it really had the emotional wall up that you would expect from something like this, just because she hasn't had as much screen time as maybe some of the other characters. But like I said,
they were setting her up. They're setting up Grace anyway to be the replacement for Ilsa.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that's how I definitely feel like it happened. Right, I felt like she was brought in to kind of be the replacement for her. But as far as like why they felt the need to do that, I can't really say. I thought it was odd. I think it kind of lended to some humorous moments, which I get. But I just thought like story-wise was kind of weird how they introduced her and how they're bringing her on. I thought that you could have I thought you could have had a more contained story with the characters that we already had without introducing a new one that is coming in on the 7th movie.
So would you say that her character introduction was kind of forced into the whole mix? Because it sounds like they've already have enough going on as it is. Ethan, has an encounter with a foe from the past. You've got this AI entity that has the capacity to control everything. You've got the CIA and all these world governments trying to go after this AI. Adding introducing Grace in the whole mix, it kind of feels like, oh, she's being shoehorned into the whole story. Is that a good assumption of your take?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it kind of feels overstuffed, right? I think you kind of already have an interesting group of characters. I thought the introduction of Alana in the previous installment was a very cool thing to add. It kind of gave us another character that we could kind of get behind. So it just felt very odd that, like I said, you bring in, kind of this character in it. And as I said, I don't think that she really added anything that you couldn't have with any of the other characters. So as much as I like Hayley Atwell, and I'm glad to see her getting, bigger roles like this, I just felt like the character wasn't really needed for the story that they were telling. So I guess more to come in the 2nd installment. I'm very interested to see what else they want to bring with it. But I would say, it feels kind of very bloated with everything that they have. And I think the more characters you add to it, the more troublesome it's going to be.
I mean, I kind of feel like she's sort of being typecasted in a way because in most previous roles that she's been, it's obviously she's played Peggy Carter, and Peggy Carter, yes, is a spy for the British government. And then, and we've seen her in the Captain America movies, I think very briefly in the Avenger movies. She had her own series for a while. So I kind of feel like her moving to the Mission Impossible franchise, yes, it's a step up for her. And yes, she is playing a thief, but she kind of migrates into the same role that she had when she was in the Marvel universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
no, totally agree.
Yeah, so so we're not knocking Hayley Atwell as an actress. She's phenomenal. She's fantastic. It kind of feels like, in terms of roles, it's starting to look like maybe she's being typecast into a particular kind of role. So what did you think about the about those stunts? Because the big one that stands out is when Ethan is following the train on this motorcycle, and Benji is directing him through all these different mountain routes until he gets to that huge cliff. What do you think of those and those other stunts? Well, any stunts for that matter.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the stunt work that we've seen in like the previous Mission Impossible movies and certainly this one, they're top notch, right? I mean, these are a ton of fun to watch. To kind of see, Benji doing his best to kind of guide Ethan, and then Ethan gets up to the top. I think everyone kind of gets that moment that it's like, oh, this clearly didn't work out as intended. And then to have him kind of do this kind of base jump off of a motorcycle was super impressive. Now obviously they didn't bother to show how he got on the train because that would have been total nonsense. I think it was pretty clear that they're like, okay, we got this really cool set piece in mind, we're gonna have him on a bike, we're gonna have him jumping off of this, and then he has to get on the train. And then everyone was like, well, how is he actually going to get onto the train? And a bunch of people looked at each other just like, they just kind of shrugged their shoulders. And they're just like, we'll just have him just crash into it at the right moment. And I thought that was, kind of, obviously, it was played up for joke, right? Like, I think they kind of just, I think even the stunt team, the director, I think everyone just kind of knew it was silly. And you just have him just like flying through the window in an exact moment that you need to have him there protect Grace on the train. I think that it was kind of obvious, but it just definitely was, like I said, some fun work. But I think some of it was done more so for the fact that they could do it, and story wise, maybe didn't make as much sense.
Right. But it was pretty. But it was pretty funny to your point. Just to see the interaction between Ethan and Benji as they're trying to figure out the best way for Ethan to catch up with the train, which obviously got sabotaged by Gabriel, who went ape shit and killing the crew before going after Alana to get the key. Speaking of which, what did you think about everybody trying to get the key? Because in my mind, I sort of got Infinity Gems vibes from it. Like everybody's trying to get it. Like what was your take on that?
I mean, I definitely think it creates some good stakes, right? Because you have so many of these players all being a part of it. And you don't really know who you want to trust with this, right? Like, we don't really know enough about the AI and why it wants it. Obviously, we don't want it to have it because, bad things are probably going to happen. So you kind of have that aspect of it. Alana plays kind of this wild card where you don't really know, like, is she just solely in it for the money? There was some, I would say, threats that Gabriel gave to Alana during that kind of standoff sequence earlier. So, there's kind of like, is she doing out of fear or, what have you? And then obviously Kittredge is obviously kind of always an interesting thing because we're getting the picture painted that, we want to do this for, the U.S. government, and, we can't trust the U.S. government because we don't know what they're going to do with it. And then we have Ethan Hunt's team that's, always kind of the good guy in the scenario that is going to do it solely for some altruistic means. So I think having kind of that clash is really interesting because you have a lot of different thoughts and a lot of different people out there for different reasons, and to have them all kind of clash in the same place, while maybe a little bit over the top, I do kind of enjoy them all being brought together for that. Even though I will say the fact that how they get the keys to begin with is very puzzling because, obviously they're all from a wreck sub, and like how people found the bodies and the keys and everything, I thought was maybe a little bit too, not super realistic, but I did like the idea of bringing everyone together for this buy that ends up kind of, at least overall, looks like it's working out for team Ethan. So
I mean, yeah, because at the end he manages to get the key away from Gabriel, and when Gabriel thinks he's escaped and he can go do what he needs to do, he finds out, oh shit, he just swiped the key from me. Um, so so as we wrap up, what are your final thoughts about the movie? Like, what would your overall score be?
so if I had to give it an overall score, I would say I would probably give it. I would say I'm gonna say 4.2 out of 5. I really like this. I thought it was like I said, a really strong showing. There was just a few things where, as I said, with the villain, not so interested in whatever's going on with the AI. And like I said, that train sequence was just a little bit too over the top. I didn't, it kind of just felt like it went on and on and on, with the whole jumping from car to car. And it's just like, after the 5th car, it's like, my suspension of interest is kind of dropped at that stage. I don't really want to see any more of this. Can we just end it already? So I think it just went maybe a little bit too long, where if they kind of condensed that sequence a little bit better, it would have been more interesting. But I still think I will give it a solid grade. Definitely one of the better things I've seen in recent memory.
Well, I'm gonna say 4 out of 5. I thought it was a very good romp. I definitely enjoyed it. I'm gonna be the contrarian here. I'm gonna give them kudos for using AI as the main villain, because it's sort of a departure from the traditional spy villain that I mentioned before. And yes, it can be played out. Yes, it can be a bit on the nose with current events, but I think it's but I think in terms of story writing, it's pretty irrelevant, because it does play on our fears about what the possibility of AI going rogue could do. And it can be a bit on the nose. It can be a bit overbearing, but I think in this case it's kind of refreshing, especially in the spy genre. I will say Ethan. I mean, for me, Ethan Hunt can be a bit of a flat character, a bit of a one-dimensional guy. He's always about doing the greater good. To the point where it's like, really, you're starting to sound a little bit like Superman here. You're all good but no flaws. But the fact that you've got Luther and Benji and Ilsa and even Grace stepping in and adding their own fears and foibles to help make the team and the mission a lot more interesting, I'll give them kudos for that too. The train sequence, I thought, I agree with you, was a bit over the top. I felt like it kind of overstayed its welcome. The stunt where he jumps off the mountain with his motorcycle, I thought, that's a little bit like jumping the shark right there, mate. There were a few other minor details, like the face change. Like, seriously, how dumb are these characters to not notice something that obvious? The fact that it seems like everybody is kind of playing each other, I thought was a bit interesting, but it kind of got overdone in some places. But overall, all things considered, I thought it was a pretty good movie for the summer of 2023. I don't know where we're gonna be given we've got the writers and actors strike going on right now, but if this is all we get for the next few months, I'm pretty content with that.
Yeah, definitely. There was one thing I did want to give special attention to, because I always like characters like this.
Yeah.
The character of Paris, right, that works with Gabriel.
Yeah.
Totally enjoyed her in this, and she's played by Palm, and I won't even bother trying to pronounce the last name.
Well, Mantis.
She played Mantis in it, or in the Guardians movies. So I just really enjoyed her character, just being totally she just was out there enjoying stuff, right? When she's having that chase sequence, and she's in that big RV, and she's just smashing into shit. Like, she's just having a hell of a time. And I just like the character totally being like at 11 with everything going on, like just totally enjoying the craziness of everything. And she really played it up. So I really like that. And honestly, Simon Pegg, once again, I mean, the guy has some, strong acting chops. Like, I really enjoyed him. I love the sequence where he's defusing the bomb, and he's like, the AI is getting to know me better. And, you could definitely feel like, everything that's going on. You can feel his worry. And like I said, he has those nice kind of, humorous things that he adds to it. I think Simon Pegg just is really killing this role. I really like him. Been a very, very strong addition to go with Ving Rhames in there. So,
and let's give a shout out to Ving Rhames also for always making Luther an interesting character. There could be no other actor playing Luther besides Ving Rhames.
That's true.
But that will do it for our episode of The Movie Pope. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and and just look out for us in the future on Spotify. We'll start uploading episodes onto Spotify pretty soon. So if you can't catch us on YouTube, catch us there. And remember to like, comment, subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Take it easy.